This video is going to show you the concept of avalanche formation and release. We're going to dive into a few additional concepts further into the video here. This video is featured prominently on our AST1 course as well, but we're going to review it again in AST2 and bring up some additional thoughts as well. So first thing to know about this is quite a violent avalanche. Nobody was killed in this avalanche. Apparently everybody's okay now. This can be quite jarring, so prepare for it. And I'm going to play it all the way through, and then we're going to do a deep dive. All right, right into this ski hill. Holy smokes. Okay, so we're going to pause right here. Let me just go back just a little bit. So a few things. So it's going to be for avalanche formation and release. And let's remember that avalanche needs a slab, it needs a weak layer, and it needs a bed surface to run on. So as this video plays, we'll pick those things out. Of note as well as we play here is this guy is dropping in, and he's dropping in on the side. So one thing just to think about as you move forward in your ski touring is that it's not always possible to ride things from the top, but generally it's the best practice because by dropping in on the side, this guy ends up in the middle of the slope with all the snow above him. Generally speaking, you get buried by the snow that's above you because usually the avalanche moves faster than you, and it's the snow that's behind you or above you on the slope that buries you. So by dropping in on the top, you have the least amount. Now that doesn't mean you won't trigger an avalanche halfway down the slope. It just gives you the best chance. The other thing to watch for here is the slope's already been ridden. So we're going to play on in here. You can see that track. So somebody's already ridden this slope. So that whole idea of just the first person triggering it, not necessarily a thing. The other thing we want to have a look for is what's going on up here, which is actually a significant amount of wind. So what that wind is doing is it's blowing the snow from the other side of the ridge onto this slope, and we can actually see a pretty good pocket. And this is what they talk about is looking for pillows of snow. You'll be reading it in the forecast, the pillows. Obvious wind slab formed here right at the very top of this ridge here. The other thing is this dude. So this dude, he never makes an appearance in the rescue at all. Kind of looks like he's either sunbathing or hiding up there. Now, I'm not sure if that guy lost the rock, paper, scissors or won, but he sure is lucky he's not the guy who dropped in first or second, I guess, on this slope. And here we can see the wind. So what the wind does is it hits the snow and it breaks down the crystals. So the crystals are kind of like bigger like this. Generally speaking, you have stellar crystals and they're big and they're nice fluffy pow. And what often happens is the wind hits those crystals and then the crystals break into bits and they make these tight crystals and then they all get packed in. And what the wind does is it blows from the one side and it takes all the snow and deposits it over here, and it's been estimated that it can be up to 10 times the amount of snow from one side of the ridge to the other. I know Kootenay Pass, Cornice Ridge is a classic spot. I'll often find 5-6 meters in the wind deposit areas and one on the other side. So that's what you're talking about when we talk about wind slabs and wind deposits. I'm not going to really get too deep into what type of avalanche problem this is. I do think it's a persistent slab problem that's a wind-driven one, and can get quite lost in the weeds with that. But definitely this is a wind-related slab. So let's just play a little bit more on this video. So the next concept I'm going to introduce here is the concept of stress bubble. So this rock in the middle of the slope, it's protruding out from the slope or from the snow, and this layer that's triggered below it is quite deep. So I'm guessing this is a meter and a half deep, and you'll see when it breaks off, this whole slab here across the top is about a meter and a half deep. And you're probably wondering, why didn't this guy trigger it? Like, why not? And it's because probably he was riding on top of the slab. The weak layer is there. All the things are there. But his weight wasn't enough to get down to that layer. Now this guy, he happens to go right by this rock. And when he goes right by the rock, it triggers literally as he goes over the rock. You can actually see the first cracks starting to appear here. And it's because that rock is sticking up, and so that weak layer is actually closer to the surface. So on average, a skier's stress bubble, meaning how far their weight penetrates into the snowpack, is about 80 centimeters deep, 100 at most. And so because that layer is closer to the surface by this rock, that's why he triggered it. And so that's why we'll often say trees protruding and rocks from the snow become trigger points. So let's just play a little bit more. Okay, so now we can see it was literally as soon as he went by the rock, you can see the cracks, and basically this is the slab letting go. So there he is on top of the slab. And we'll take the concept of the mattress on ball bearings. The ball bearings are the weak layer sliding on top of the bed surface. The bed surface is the harder layer underneath it. It needs that somewhat of a harder layer underneath. Doesn't always, or we'll get into that later as well. But generally speaking, it's a harder layer followed by a weak layer followed by another harder layer, and that harder layer is that slab. And so it's breaking right now all around this guy, and he's on top of that mattress going for a ride down the hill. And there it goes. And we can see the wind has been loading all along this ridge top here, meter to meter and a half deep slab. And note how, for whatever reason, the slab doesn't break in here. It's just the snow that's in here that's gone, which is what makes me think it's a wind event, right? So the wind is loading in over that top, and when you get down here, there's no more wind slab, so the slab isn't there. So there's no slab present in this spot. All this snow going over top of it and no additional layer breaking. Now the avalanche, it's gone from its start zone up here at the top. Here's the start zone up in there. Now it's in the track, and the track is where the avalanche gains speed, and you can see it's really accelerating through here. And it's amazing this guy went through here and was okay in the end. Accelerated to such a speed so quickly. I mean, there's just no way that he could have got out of the way of that. We'll just go back a little bit as well and just talk about what he's doing here. So he's riding through, and he kind of comes along, and he's like, oh man, and he's trying to ride out of it, but he can't. And he can't because he's on top of the slab, and he kind of runs into the very toe of the avalanche, and he could not ride out of that. That's why his best bet was actually maybe to have been in here. Who knows if he would have triggered it there? Who knows? Maybe he rode through here, never even triggered it. Maybe he triggered it right at this rock at the top, and only this snow was behind, and gave himself a little bit of a better out. But by basically cutting straight out into the middle all the way across the slope, he left himself in the most vulnerable position right there. It's totally vulnerable, and the avalanche has taken out this other guy's tracks. I bet you he feels pretty lucky about this whole situation as well. So the next thing is that we're just going to notice another avalanche, which kind of makes me think, hey, maybe it wasn't just the wind, because there's another slab that breaks out under these rocks here. maybe there was cross-loading, maybe not. Maybe this is a persistent slab problem that's deep in the snowpack and it just needed the weight of this avalanche to go, and there really wasn't all that much wind loading. So I'm not 100% sure about that. Let's keep playing. Really, really grabbing more snow here. And now this avalanche is in its run out. And if you remember, the run out is here where the incline decreases and the avalanche begins to slow down. If this guy's trapped in this avalanche, now is his time to try to get to the surface. One of the problems with avalanches is that they want to throw you down because the snow at the back here is moving faster than the snow at the front. The snow has slowed down, so now that back snow comes over the top. And that's why people get buried so deeply sometimes. It's acting kind of like a wave. It's like crashing in and recirculating and then pushing the person down into the bottom. So this guy right now, he's going to be trying to do whatever he can to get to the surface. He's trying to make himself an air pocket if he can at all. I don't know how the rescue went or anything along those lines, but everybody seemed to get out of the way. Super lucky. The other thing I want to bring up here is the idea of the spatial variability. So the spatial variability is that concept that avalanche layers are kind of all over the place. It's really hard to figure out where they are. And just by looking at this over top, we can see like maybe if he had a ridden over here, he never would have triggered it. And maybe if he had to come across here, I'm just saying like this isn't a route I would take, but if he had to come up here, let's say you dug a snow profile right here as you come across, maybe that weak layer isn't there at all. I honestly have no idea why the slab didn't crack out all the way into these rocks. It just didn't. So sometimes when you dig down, you could be digging in a spot, note that there's no weak layer present and think it's all good to go. And then you walk out onto where the weak layer is formed, or maybe the wind has played a role in creating the slab, and whammo, the recipe is there, and your recipe wasn't here where you looked. That's the real challenge with digging and avalanche forecasting, is that it's really hard to know what's under your feet, especially when it's always changing. Note people have skied over here. No avalanches. People have skied some nice steep lines in here. No avalanches. Guy cut across this bolt. No avalanches. Maybe they're feeling like everything was fine. This, I believe, is a bomb tower. And you'd think that patrol would know about this issue. So this is threatening a ski hill. So somehow it caught everybody off guard. Can't really speak to like what they were thinking there. Yeah, there's quite a bit. Every time I watch this, there's more to be gleaned from it. But those are the key takeaways. We've got ourselves our slab up here on the weak layer, running on the bed surface down here, triggering another slab over here through the track into the runout, slowing on down. And then we've got the problem of spatial variability and people having skied the slope already, maybe thinking it was safe and good to go.